Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of Seconds Out Flexpectations. I'm here every Thursday, 4:30 PM, to look ahead to the boxing action over the weekend. And this week I thought with the Anthony Joshua Oleksandr Usyk fight quite rightly garnering the majority of attention across the channel, I would focus instead on the undercard, which isn't the best undercard we've ever seen on a Sky Sports box office event, it has to be said. But that doesn't mean it won't be entertaining in parts. And I think people still would like to know exactly kind of what's going to go down or what they should expect. And I can't promise it'll all be accurate, but let's hope I'm not too far off. I guess the most intriguing part of the undercard would be the debut at light heavyweight for former WBA super middleweight champion Callum Smith in his first appearance since losing to Canelo Alvarez and obviously suffering that bicep injury, serious injury, and since leaving long-time trainer Joe Gallagher as well, now working with renowned former world champion and top trainer Buddy McGirt. So it'll be interesting to see any changes we could find in Smith's style after the switch in trainers, but more importantly how he adapts to the new weight class. It's long been talked about him moving up in weight. He's was always huge for super middleweight, 6'3" with commensurate reach, and he won't enjoy it as pronounced advantages up at the new weight as he did, of course, at super middle. But he's still, if he's filled out and he says he hasn't just eaten his way up to 175 pounds, he's been working diligently with his strength and conditioner and nutritionist, then you would expect him to be a bit of a force. Certainly the only person who was able to beat him at 168 was, of course, Canelo, and you'd fancy him, I guess, over pretty much every other super middleweight in the world. So no disgrace there, and we saw what he went on to do to Billy Joe Saunders after Callum Smith as well. So for his first kind of dipping his toes in the water in the new weight class, he's got Dominican Republic's Lenin Castillo. Well known, been around the block, trial horse, couple of fights ago, went the distance with Dimitri Bivol for the WBA title. Someone I'm sure is on Smith's radar now that he's moved up. Bivol dominated that fight. Castillo is a competent operator. He dropped Marcus Brown on the way to another points loss a few years ago. Decent, got a kind of languid sort of style, does all the fundamentals well, doesn't really show a great deal of ambition, isn't a particularly proactive fighter, and certainly wasn't against Bivol. 6'2", slightly shorter reach than Smith. Probably, it's going to be interesting to see if he comes into this with a real kind of strong will to win. We haven't always seen that from him. Smith's obviously the one being primed for bigger things against Bivol, for example. It looked like Castillo could have had more success in that title challenge. It was the biggest fight of his career, and he didn't really seem overly fussed at times how well he got on. Lost pretty much every round to a faster, physically just more gifted, athletic fighter, but someone he was much, much bigger than, and perhaps could have used that height and reach advantage a bit more against Bivol. But he won't have those edges against Callum Smith. And I think Smith will be looking to get the rounds in. I think he'll be looking to test his durability and his power at the new weight, carrying those extra 7 pounds. And I would predict Castillo's never been stopped. We're not sure how much Smith's power will be carried up with him against the bigger opponents. But also, the kind of without the rigours of having to make 168 pounds, perhaps he'll be hitting even harder than we've seen him in the past. But I would expect this one to go the distance. It'd be a real statement if he gets Castillo out of there early. But I can't really see past a wide points decision for Callum Smith. Another world title fight on the card, though, as well as obviously Joshua Usyk, is Lawrence Okolie making the first and a mandatory defence of the WBO Cruiserweight Championship. Although the challenger Dylan Prazovic from Montenegro probably says more about the WBO's questionable rankings practices than it does about his level as a fighter. Prazovic has fought in a number of countries, never been over here before. but not really fought anyone of particularly good standard. He previously held the WBO youth title, and I think that got him a certain place in the rankings, and he's just climbed steadily from there despite not fighting anyone particularly good on the way. You can watch, there's plenty of video of him out there on YouTube and other platforms. He's, fundamentals are decent, but nothing special. He's not the quickest. He likes to throw and this could be dangerous against Okolie, he likes to throw a big kind of lead left hook, quite a wide lead left hook to be that too. And I think Okolie is a very big puncher, sharp hitter as well. Always his timing and his shot selection have improved under Shane McGuigan during their time together as well. We saw what he did against a genuine world-class opponent in Krzysztof Glowacki last time out. And I think this fight with Prasovic will be more akin to the fight that Okolie had, was it December? When he was supposed to fight Glowacki, but contracted COVID, and I think he got delayed, and he ended up fighting that Nikodem Jezewski. I think he just calls him Big J, but I need to be better than that. I think it's Jezewski. He fought him at short notice and got rid of him in 2 rounds. And the difference in class was immediately obvious. The way that Jezewski squared up, he was kind of jittery on his feet and just got countered with ease. And I see a similar outcome this time around. I think Prasovic hasn't done anything to show that he's a level above the likes of Jezewski. And he doesn't like to jab his way in. He is a bit lumbering. He is a bit cumbersome. And I think against someone like that, especially with Okolie being 6'5", really long reach, huge for the weight, I think it's just a recipe for disaster for Prasovic, who's lucky, it has to be said, to get this shot. And I think I can't see anything other than a one-sided destruction within the first 4 rounds in favour of Lawrence Okolie, who we hope will then move on to bigger and better things, hopefully unifying, almost taking steps to unifying the division against the likes of Meris Bridis, Arsene Goulamarian, etc. Fingers crossed. Another fight that's kind of been talked up as being, most exciting fight of the night on paper. I'm not convinced, unfortunately. Is Maxim Prodan, the Romanian, coming to fight the Albanian king, Florian Marku. Marku's clearly got talent. He can punch, and as we saw against Ryland Charlton, he can, when he needs to, get on his toes and box a bit as well. Brings that vociferous fan base. Prodan, he's unbeaten, only 1 draw on his record, no defeats, but it's smoke and mirrors, it has to be said. He was lucky to come through his last 2 fights. 2 bouts ago, he fought Tony Dixon, Welshman, who we know pretty well, was beaten on the way up by a young Ted Cheeseman. I mean, Ted Cheeseman's still young, but you get my point. A fresher Ted Cheeseman than he is now. Beat him on points. And Dixon looked unlucky to lose a split decision, I think it was, against Prodan in Italy, where Prodan is based, not too long ago. And then in his more recent fight, he was incredibly fortunate to come out of the win, fighting Nicola Cristofori, again in Italy on a DAZN show. Prodan seemed to be outboxed for the majority of their 10-rounder. I think he scored a knockdown with a big leaping kind of left hook that caught Cristofori high on the head in round 5. But apart from that, he seemed to be soundly outboxed from the outside by a rangy opponent who didn't stop moving laterally and punch picked really effectively with the jab and the right hand. And also the kind of winging left hook on the move as he turned the corner as well. That was pretty impressive performance. And then as it came towards the latter stages of the 10th and final round, it seemed like Cristofori only had to stay on his feet to get a clear victory despite the knockdown. And very, very strange ending, something I hadn't seen before. Cristofori slipped on a patch of water, it seemed, in the middle of the ring. That kind of rocked him back to the ropes. He tried to show out to the referee on a number of occasions of what had happened, I guess to alert his attention to the fact that the water needed to be cleared up. The referee took no notice, and as Cristofori was back to the ropes, Prodan unloaded. Most of his shots were either slipped or blocked, but inexplicably, or maybe there is an explanation, but one that we don't want to go into in too much detail, the referee dived in and waved the fight off. Now, terrible officiating, as the commentators said at the time, robbed Cristofori of what would have been a career best victory and preserved Prodan's unbeaten record so he could translate it into this payday against Marku, but I can't see it being anything more than that. Prodan, he's chunky. I don't mean he's fat. I mean he's you know, solid, blocky, welterweight, good kind of powerful hooks, decent head movement to go on the way in, but he's quite plodding. He doesn't use his jab anywhere near often enough. And against someone who's fast and a good boxer in Marku, who also carries a bit of a dig, I don't see how he wins this fight, and he won't get the benefit of any dodgy officiating on this time around, not being in Italy where he is based. Marku, I guess the key question in this is whether he can get the stoppage or not. It's an interesting one because on paper this should get Marku an IBF ranking because it's for Prodan's IBF International Welterweight title. However, looking at the latest IBF rankings, Prodan's not even in the top 15 despite holding that belt. It'll be interesting to see whether Marku, when he beats Prodan, I did say when, moves into that top 15, having kind of better promotional backing perhaps. We shall see. But yeah, I expect Marku to get the job done in fine fashion, and I think it will be a stoppage in the mid to late rounds for him. You also get the chance to see Campbell Hatton, of course, taking the next steps in his embryonic pro career, and I'm sure he will be entertaining to watch. But yeah, not going to be a lot of competitive action, I don't think, on the undercard. Usyk against Baysan Gurov, that could actually be the fight of the night. I'm not sure whether that's on the latter portion of the pay-per-view or when that's going to be placed. The running order hasn't come out yet or been confirmed. But that could be the kind of sleeper hit. But the main fights, the ones that are getting the majority of column inches and videos that are coming out, probably going to be quite one-sided. And I'm happy to have egg on my face if I'm wrong. When I do reflections on Monday, I'm sure you know, people will tell me all about it in the comments if I did get it wrong. But let me know what you guys think. Am I being harsh? And you know, do you give a chance to any of the underdogs? Prodan, who else? Prodan, Prasovic, of course, against Okolie. Prodan against Marku, and Lenin Castillo against Callum Smith. Do you give them any more of a chance than I have? And how do you see them going? Do you think the A side will all score stoppage victories? Do you think any of them will have to go the distance? Let me know what you think. I'll respond to some of the comments, but I just wanted to kind of let people know a little bit more about the undercard because I don't think that's getting much attention. And I understand why it's not. You know, most pay-per-views are bought on the basis of the main event. It's an incredibly good main event. Can't say enough good things about it, but I'm not focusing on that for this video. But yeah, incredibly good fight, Joshua Usyk. And just for me, I fancy Joshua to win on points. That's my prediction. I'm not going to go into why because we haven't got time in this video and it is focusing on the undercard. But just in case we say, well, we haven't heard your prediction for the main event, there you go. Head above the parapet, Joshua on points for me. Really appreciate you watching. I'll be back on Monday for Reflections 4:30 and the following Thursday for the next Flexpectations at the same time. See you all soon.